A week ago, I found myself at a secluded lake house. I was burnt out and thought a break might help. The towering pines around the water had a calming effect, or so I believed. My friend had inherited the place, and it was charming in its old-fashioned way. I settled in, ready to sketch and recharge, but it didn't take long for the strange events to begin. On my first night, I sat by the fireplace, listening to the wood crackle. Suddenly, I heard splashing. It was late, and I wondered if I imagined it. I peeked out the window, but the lake was calm and only reflected the moonlight. I shrugged it off and returned to my sketches, though an uneasy feeling settled in my gut. The next night, I felt more exhausted than creative. I decided to go to bed early. Around midnight, laughter jolted me awake. It was bright, cheerful laughter, yet the lake was empty. I pulled back the curtains, but there was nothing, just darkness. A chill crawled up my spine. I sat in bed confused, convincing myself it was just my tired mind playing tricks on me. By the third night, the situation worsened. The lights flickered in my room, casting shadows that seemed to dance. I thought I saw shapes in the corners of my eyes, but they vanished when I turned my head. The next morning, I found something strange on my window, written in what looked like water. "Play with us." My heart raced. I was completely alone, yet I could hear the laughter in the distance. That night, I decided I needed answers. I took a flashlight and sat on the porch, staring into the darkness. My heart pounded as I felt something watching me. I mustered the courage to call out, "Is anyone there?" Silence pressed down heavy around me. Then, in that quiet moment, I heard a whisper, "Don't leave." I froze and could feel ice in my veins. I looked toward the lake, but it remained empty. No lights, no figures, just the silent water. I felt paralyzed. Was I losing my mind? I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. On my fourth night, I resolved to not let fear win. I went outside again, trying to confront whatever was happening. My breath fogged in the cool air. I thought about leaving early, but the whispers grew louder. I heard a chorus of children again, their laughter echoing across the water. It felt eerily joyful, but also terrifying. The lake was still, yet the sound surrounded me. I kept asking, "Who are you, and what do you want?" but I received no answer, only the laughter getting closer. Out of pure dread, I turned to go back inside. I stumbled, needing to escape the weight of the silence. But as I stepped inside, the whispers intensified, and I felt something brush against my arm. I turned, but there was nothing there. Just the quiet of the house and the lake beyond. What had I gotten myself into? What were those voices trying to tell me? I couldn't shake the feeling that the house was alive, breathing with secrets. The next morning, I decided to do what I had avoided so far, explore the attic. It was an old house, and I figured maybe it held some clues about the strange occurrences. Climbing the narrow stairs, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Each creak underfoot echoed in the silence, reminding me I was on my own. When I reached the attic door, I hesitated. What if I found something I wasn't prepared for? But then I thought about the whispers, the laughter. I pushed the door open, and a cloud of dust floated past me. The attic was filled with odd trinkets, moth-eaten boxes, aged furniture, and old photographs scattered across the floor. I flipped through the photos, trying to make sense of who these people were. They looked happy, families smiling in front of the lake, children laughing. But something felt off. Their eyes had a strange glimmer, almost watching me. As I rummaged through an old trunk, I uncovered a wooden box. It had strange carvings on its surface, like the words were alive. I slowly opened it, curious and anxious. Inside lay a collection of faded toys, a small stuffed bear, a rusty metal car, and a delicate music box. The moment I lifted the music box, a haunting melody filled the room.
It was so beautiful that it sent shivers down my spine. Then I noticed something lying in the box's corner, a small yellow diary. The cover was brittle, but I read a few entries. The last one chilled me to the bone. They want to play, but I can't stay. I have to leave this place. They won't let me go. My heart raced. Who was this child, and what did they mean by they? Just then, I heard the laughter again, clearer than ever, echoing through the attic. I froze. It sounded like it was right outside the door. I wanted to run, but my feet felt glued to the floor. I couldn't stop myself from peeking through the crack of the door. That's when I saw them. Shadows flitted just out of view, wisps of movement in the dim light. They danced along the edges of the room, their laughter rising and falling like a wave. I caught a glimpse of faces, pale, smiling, their features indistinct but undeniably there. I gasped and stumbled back. The music box clattered to the floor. The melody stopped abruptly. Silence enveloped me. For a moment, I thought I imagined it. But then I heard the whispering again, a collective echo. Play with us. This time, it felt less like a plea and more like a command. My heart thundered as panic flooded my senses. I bolted for the stairs, nearly tripping over my feet. I had to get out of the
Attic, out of the house. But as I reached the top of the stairs, the door slammed shut. The laughter grew louder, and I heard a voice distinctly say, "Stay with us." I banged on the door, desperate. What were they? Fear clawed at my chest. I had to escape this nightmare. I didn't belong here, but it seemed these spirits had other plans. I slammed my hands against the door, panic rising with each thud. The laughter echoed back, almost mocking me, and I stumbled backward, heart racing. The attic had turned from a place of secrets into a haunting trap. Frantically, I looked around for another exit, but the only way out was that door. Then I noticed something at the far side of the attic, a small window. Light filtered through the grime, casting a dim glow over a section of the wall. It wasn't large, but it might be my only chance. I rushed towards it, my breath coming fast. As I approached, the laughter faded slightly, replaced by a faint whisper, "Don't leave." I froze again, the chill of those words sinking deep. I had to ignore it. I climbed onto an old rickety chair, propelling myself up to the window. I wiggled it open, wincing at the screech of rusty hinges. The air felt fresher, but the world outside loomed beneath me, my safe escape. Just as I prepared to pull myself through, a shadow darted across the floor. I looked down, heart in my throat. A figure appeared at the door I'd just tried to escape from. It was one of them, a child's silhouette, grinning up at me with an unnerving, knowing smile. My heart raced, and I teetered on the edge of the window. "Play with us," the child echoed, a sing-song voice carrying a chilling familiarity. I hesitated, staring wide-eyed at the apparition. Then I lost my balance and fell back onto the cluttered floor, a sharp pain shooting through my ankle. I scrambled to my feet, the joyful laughter ringing out again, now interspersed with whispers of other children. "Stay, stay," they urged, like a twisted lullaby wrapping around my senses. I clutched my ankle, ignoring the pain, and scanned the room for some form of defense. My eyes landed on the music box I had dropped earlier. I quickly picked it up, feeling its weight in my palm. If the melody could awaken these spirits, maybe it could also ward them off. I wound it up, hoping for a distraction, and watched as it slowly began to play its haunting tune. To my horror, the moment the first note echoed through the attic, the entire space shifted. The shadows coalesced, forming distinct figures. The child transformed, growing more defined, her pale face now illuminated by the eerie glow. Other children joined her, their eyes glinting with mischief and longing. "Why won't you come and play?" they chimed in unison,
their voices melding into a single eerie harmony. The laughter turned,
sinister, echoing through every corner of the attic. I could feel them closing in, a swirling tide of desire, pulling me deeper into their world. In that moment, the diary's words flashed back to me. They won't let me go. The realization hit like a stone in my gut. I wasn't just any visitor. I was another plaything, another soul they wanted to trap. With adrenaline surging, I turned and charged for the attic door. "No!" came a chorus of shrieks. But the door swung open as if it had been waiting for me. I darted through, slamming it behind me. My heart raced as I scrambled down the stairs, each step feeling like it might be my last. But as I reached the bottom, the air shifted. The laughter faded to a haunting whisper. "You can't escape." I paused, breathless and terrified, knowing this was far from over. I burst into the hallway, feeling the cool wood of the floor beneath my bare feet. The sound of my pounding heart echoed in my ears, drowning out the lingering whispers. I had to get away, but where? The house felt endless, a maze of rooms and corridors that could easily trap me again. Ignoring the twinge in my ankle, I rushed down the hall, glancing back toward the attic door. I half expected it to burst open, the laughter of the children spilling out like a flood. But the door remained shut. For now. I made for the back door, hoping it led outside. I flung it open, but the sight beyond sent a chill down my spine. The mist hovered over the lake, thick and heavy, making it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. Still, the open air felt like a blessing compared to the attic. As I stepped outside, a sound caught my attention. A soft giggle, just beyond the veil of mist. I squinted into the fog. Had the children followed me? Panic surged again, but I pushed it down. It would be easy to give in to fear. I had to remain calm. I forced myself to take a step toward the sound, glancing back at the house. The darkness loomed behind me, a stark contrast to the pale light of the early evening. Suddenly, a movement in the mist made me stop. A figure, small and quick, darted between trees. My blood ran cold. "Come play," the whispering voice called from the thickness of the fog. It froze me in place. This time, it didn't sound like just one of them. It sounded like many. I had to move. I turned on my heel and stumbled toward the lake. The stillness of the water greeted me, rippling gently under the fading light. I caught a glimpse of my reflection, distorted in the surface. A figure flashed behind me, and panic surged again. "Leave me alone!" I shouted, the words tumbling from my lips before I could stop them. The laughter echoed off the trees, an eerie response that sent chills down my spine. Then I noticed something in the water, just at the edge of where the mist curled like gnarled fingers. A small weathered box floated on the surface, glimmering almost invitingly in the twilight. I hesitated. Should I reach for it? Was it another trap? But the pull of curiosity won out. I kneeled by the water's edge and reached into the cold lake. As my fingers brushed against the box, a heavy weight settled in my chest. My mind raced. What if it was something important? I pulled the box toward me, heart pounding as I opened the lid. Inside, I found an old, tattered photograph of children. Their faces were eerily familiar, frozen in a moment of joy that felt hauntingly wrong. Then I felt it, a presence behind me. The air grew colder. I didn't want to look, but I had to. My breath hitched as I turned around, and my blood turned to ice.
There, standing just outside the edge of the mist, were the children, all of them. Their smiles wider, eyes glinting with something beyond joy, something darker. "Now you can play forever," they sang, and the lake shifted ominously beneath me. I dropped the box as dread consumed me. There was no escape. I gasped and stumbled backward, wrists slipping on wet grass as I tried to regain my balance. The children's laughter rang out like a chorus of bells, hauntingly melodic, resonating through the stillness of the evening. I turned to run, but my legs felt heavy, as if the ground itself was pulling me back. The mist thickened, swirling around their feet as they advanced, expressions of pure delight plastered on their faces. I felt trapped, like a fish caught in a net, my only option to weave between the shadows of looming trees. I sprinted, adrenaline surging through me, but it felt like I was moving in slow motion. "Don't you want to play with us?" one child called, a fleeting grin showing off bright white teeth that didn't match the malevolence lurking in their eyes. The more I ran, the more the laughter echoed, ricocheting in my mind. This was no game. This was a chase, and I was the prey. I spotted the boathouse at the end of the lake, a weathered structure half hidden by overgrown brush. It could offer a hiding place, maybe even a chance to escape. I dashed for it. Each footfall seemed to vibrate through the ground. The laughter grew louder, and I could hear their tiny footsteps echoing just behind me. Almost there, just a few more steps. I burst through the door of the boathouse, heart racing. I pulled it closed, leaning against it, gasping for breath. The air was stale, filled with the smell of damp wood, and something else. Fear. My fear. I turned to survey the dark space, half expecting to find the children creeping up behind me. But the boathouse was empty, save for old fishing gear
and rickety boats that swayed gently on their moorings. I caught my breath, but the sense of dread didn't leave. What if they could come in? I shuddered at the thought, moving towards a window to peek outside. An unsettling quiet fell over the lake, and I saw them, standing just outside the boathouse, eyes locked on me. Their sweet smiles faded into stern expressions, and my stomach churned. They weren't playing. They were waiting. Suddenly, a noise caught my attention, the creak of wood. I whirled around to find a small trapdoor in the floor, partially ajar. A chill crept up my spine. What lay beneath? It could be a way out, or a way in for them. I moved closer, heart pounding painfully against my ribs. I could hear a faint whispering, like the low hum of voices, barely audible but chilling. "Come play," they sang in unison, the tone unsettlingly sweet. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I had to know. I knelt and pulled the door open wider. A dark, narrow staircase led down into the unknown. The whispers grew louder, almost seductive, wrapping around me like tendrils of smoke. "Are you coming? Don't you want to play?" Another heartbeat skipped, another breath was lost. My choice loomed ahead, join them or descend into the darkness below. And then, just as I was about to decide, the boathouse trembled. "Help us!" The voices morphed into desperate cries. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about playing. This was about freedom. The children, the boathouse, the depths below. I had to choose. But did I even have a choice? Before I could think, the ground rumbled beneath me, shaking my resolve. "Help us!" The voice echoed, piercing the air. The urgency in it gripped my heart.
I had to act now or risk getting swallowed by this nightmare. I hesitated, staring at the trapdoor as if it held the answers to questions I didn't even know I'd been asking. I felt so small, just one person against whatever was trapped down there. The children outside shifted, their voices rising into a cacophony of giggles and pleas. "Make a choice," they chorused, the sing-song quality chilling me to my bones. Acting on instinct, I plunged down the stairs, heart pounding with each step. The air grew colder, and the smell of damp earth assaulted my senses. The whispers surrounded me now, a chorus of pleas and laughter that mixed into an unsettling melody. It felt wrong, like the walls themselves were closing in. The staircase spiraled down, each creak echoing like a warning. I reached the bottom and stepped into a dimly lit chamber. My skin prickled as I took in the sight. The walls were lined with old photographs, children smiling brightly, but their eyes were dark, hollow. Faces I didn't recognize, but felt somehow familiar. I swallowed hard, stepping further inside. The room was
filled with forgotten toys, broken dolls with missing limbs, and dusty board games. I was in a playground of horror, a shrine to lost innocence. Then a cold breeze rustled the photos, and one fell to the ground. That's when I saw it. At the center of the room sat a large mirror, its surface cracked and reflecting warped images. I approached it cautiously, drawn in despite my fear. The reflections twisted and flickered, showing not just my scared face, but images of the children outside, different moments, different times. Their laughter echoed, and I placed a trembling hand against the cool glass. Suddenly, the mirror shimmered, and a voice erupted from it. "We need you," it cried, a blend of fear and desperation in the tone. "They won't let us go." I stepped back, fear coursing through me. "Who?" I shouted, but the voice only spoke again, pleading, "Help us escape. You have to break the mirror." Breaking it felt like I would be binding myself to whatever was trapped inside, but if I didn't do something, the children outside would never be free. I swung my fist back, the urge to smash the glass rising every second. But just as I was about to strike, the room trembled violently. A loud crack echoed, and the whispers turned to screams. "Don't!" they shouted all at once. "You'll make it worse." The urgency rushed back into me. I froze, caught between breaking the mirror and the fate of the children. Then the boathouse shuddered again, and the footsteps of the children grew louder as they began to flood in through the trapdoor. I had to make a choice fast. Face the mirror and whatever was inside, or confront the children who seemed no longer innocent, but dangerously eager. The darkness swirled around me as I clenched my fists. The moment was spiraling out of control, and time was running out. "What am I supposed to do?" I yelled, panic rising in my throat. Then I took a deep breath, preparing for what was next. The children poured into the chamber, their eyes wide and hungry. They surrounded me, a sea of eager faces, each one a distorted reflection of innocence. I could feel their energy pulsating, vibrating like the air before a storm. "Help us," they begged, but it sounded more like a command than a plea. The mirror shimmered again, flickering with a strange light. Images spun within, revealing moments of joy turned to horror. I caught glimpses of laughter shadowing into screams, faces twisted in desperation. "Get back!" I shouted, raising my hands defensively. They paused, their expressions momentarily cold, calculating. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice trembling. I was scared, but I felt a flicker of resolve. I needed answers. "We want to play," one child exclaimed, with a wide grin, but there was a sharp edge to that smile. "Join us!" A sickening feeling settled in my stomach. They weren't just playing games, they were playing
for keeps.
I forced myself to step closer to the mirror, ignoring the children's demands. The urge to break the glass flickered back, but I needed to know what I was getting into first. In a desperate attempt, I yelled, "What happens if I break the mirror?" The room trembled at my words. The children's laughter twisted into hollow echoes, and I felt the walls shift ominously. "You'll see!" they shouted in unison, their voices now distorted, as if something darker was lurking behind their cheerful facade. Suddenly, they lunged toward me, their hands reaching out like shadows. I stepped back instinctively, my foot hitting an old toy, a bright red truck that rolled away with a soft thud. In that instant, my stomach dropped. It wasn't just a toy, it was a reminder of something lost. Where were the children from the photos? What had happened to them? My heart raced. I felt the gravity of their desperation pulling me in, tugging at my conscience. Then I remembered the shattered glass. What if breaking it freed them? Or worse, what if it released something more sinister? I could see the reflection of the mirror beginning to swirl, and I was drawn to it despite the warning screaming in my mind. "You have to make a choice," the voice cried again from within, urging me to act. I glanced back at the children, now closing in around me, chanting, "Join us! Join us!" Their voices blurred together, trembling the very air. The fear was palpable. In that moment, I realized I had to choose quickly. Either I could succumb to their demands or take a stand against this twisted game. I raised my fist up once more, trembling with the weight of the choice, knowing that I might unleash either their freedom or their wrath. That's when I felt a cold rush of air, and the mirror erupted with a blinding light. The room flickered and shifted. Something began to emerge, a shadow creeping from the depths of the mirror, and I was left wondering if I had just unleashed something I could never put back. The choice became clearer, but the consequences far darker. The light from the mirror swallowed the room, bathing everything in a bright white glow. I shielded my eyes, heart pounding, as the shadow detangled itself from the mirror's depths. It was formless at first, a silhouette against the brightness. Then I realized it was taking shape. I blinked, and as the light dimmed, I could make out a figure, a child perhaps, but something was off. Its skin was pale, almost translucent. Dark circles marked its eyes, which glowed unsettlingly like beacons in the night. It glanced at me, and a jolt of fear shot through me. This was no innocent child asking to play. This was something else entirely. "What's happening?" I whispered, trying to keep my voice steady. The children hesitated around me, their previous eagerness replaced by an eerie stillness. The laughter had faded, leaving a grave silence. The shadow child stepped forward, each movement deliberate and unnaturally smooth. "You called us," it said, its voice a whisper carried on a sudden gust of wind. "Now we must find out if you can play." Play? Did they mean the same thing they had before? No, this felt different, darker. "What do you want from me?" My voice cracked, but I tried to keep the tremor out. The figures around me shifted, their faces reflecting a mix of anticipation and malice. "We want you to choose," they sang softly, their voices melding into one haunting melody. "Join us or be lost forever." My heart raced. Could I join them? What would that even mean? The thought of crossing over into that world made my skin crawl. But standing there, I felt the weight of indecision, like a heavy chain locking me in place. Then something caught my eye, a glint of color by the mirror's edge. It was a tiny broken toy, a porcelain doll, its eyes staring blankly. I reached for it instinctively, grasping at the warmth of something real in a room filled with shadows. "Who was this?" I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. The shadow child tilted its head,
eyes flickering with something that resembled interest. "One of us," it replied, its tone revealing no trace of childhood innocence. The room felt colder, a chill creeping down my spine. "Where is it?" My heart raced again. "Where are they?" I turned to the others, desperate for answers, but they remained unmoving, their anticipation palpable. A sense of urgency swept over me. I needed a way out. Then everything went dark. The light from the mirror vanished, leaving me in a suffocating blackness. My breath quickened. I was plunged into silence, with only whispers brushing against my ears. Panic surged as I spun around. "Where are you?" I yelled, but the only response was the echo of my own voice. Then from the void, a new sound emerged, a single, soft weeping. It drew me in like a moth to a flame. I took a step, my instincts screaming at me to run, but curiosity held me in place. As I moved closer, I caught the outline of a figure, slumped on the ground. My heart sank as I recognized the child from the doll. The real child, not the dark reflection. "Help me," it whimpered, reaching out toward me. That's when I felt it. Something cold wrapped around my ankle, tightening like a vice. I looked down, and dread filled me as shadows clawed at my legs, pulling me back. Was this the choice I had made? Did I have the strength to face the darkness? I fought against the pull of the shadows, panic surging anew as they tightened their grip. "Let go of me!" I shouted, my voice barely breaking through the suffocating darkness. I could still see the child, its tear-streaked face hauntingly familiar. But my heart was racing, pounding with the fear that this was a trap. "Please!" it cried again, desperation lacing each word. I wanted to reach out, to help, but I felt like I was being torn apart. The shadows clung to me, whispering ancient secrets, their voices hissing and slithering through the air. "Join us! Join us!" "No!" I screamed, pulling my legs free with all my strength. The cold grip loosened slightly, and I stumbled backward, desperation fueling my movements. I needed to escape this nightmare. This couldn't be real. Just as I regained my footing, the darkness shifted. A bright speck flickered in the distance. I could barely discern a shape. A door? Or maybe an escape route? Without thinking, I darted toward it, ignoring the cries of the shadow child echoing behind me. Each step felt heavy, as if the darkness was trying to drag me back, but I pushed through. The light grew stronger with every stride, illuminating the path ahead. As I neared the source, I realized it was not a door at all, but a reflection, a glimpse into another world. The mirror was back, floating in an endless space filled with shimmering, chaotic colors. I hesitated. I wanted to leap into its light, but something held me back. What if it was just another lie? Just then, I noticed movement in the mirror. Figures were gathering, more shadow children, their dark eyes fixated on me. "You cannot leave," they sang in unison, their voices drawing nearer, each note chilling my bones. "You belong with us." "No!" I shouted, backing away from the mirror's edge, the realization setting in. There was no escape. They were everywhere, filling the room with their laughter and despair. The shadow child from earlier emerged again, its face twisted in a grin, unnatural and haunting. "You have to choose," it taunted, "but you already know the answer." The chill spread through me. If the light was a path to safety, then I needed to take it. But as I turned to face the mirror again, an icy tendril snaked around my wrist, pulling me off balance. Panic surged through my veins, and I felt a surge of determination. I had to act fast. Using every ounce of willpower, I lifted the broken doll, the one I had found earlier, above my head like a shield. "No, I won't let you take me." The shadow children recoiled as the porcelain shimmered, blinding them momentarily. I knew I couldn't hesitate. I dashed towards the mirror with hope and fear intertwined, ready to plunge into the unknown. But just as I reached the surface, I felt a sharp pull from the darkness behind me. "You'll regret it," a voice hissed, echoing through the void. And then, in a flash, everything vanished. The mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces, and I braced myself for the impact of whatever awaited me on the other side. I landed hard, gasping for air, as a new reality unfolded before me. I was no longer the suffocating darkness, but in an eerily familiar room. My own room. Or was it? I peered around, confusion swirling in my mind. Something wasn't right. The walls were the same faded blue, the same furniture, but shadows danced along the edges, creeping closer. That's when I saw it. A small broken doll, not unlike the one I had found. It lay in the corner, staring at me with hollow eyes. "Welcome back," the shadow child's voice whispered from the darkness. "Let's play again." I froze, realization crashing down around me. The game was far from over. In that moment, all the dread and desperation I had felt surged back, washing over me like a heavy tide. The shadows wrapped around me once more, suffocating and relentless. I thought I was free, yet here I was, standing in my own room, the distance from the lake house somehow irrelevant. The doll lay there, its gaze unyielding. "Welcome back," the voice echoed again, a sing-song lilt that sent chills down my spine. I recoiled, backing away from the doll, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear laughter drifting in from outside my window, a disconcerting blend of joy and malice. I wanted to scream, cry out for help, but the words lodged in my throat. "Play with us," whispered the shadows lurking at the periphery of the room, their whispers swirling into a cacophony. I felt the weight of their presence pushing against me, urging me to join them. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to step back, willing the fear away. I couldn't give in. Not now. With trembling hands, I picked up the broken doll, now feeling like a weight rather than a reminder of innocence. "What do you want?" I cried into the emptiness around me. "You can't have me." The laughter outside grew louder, washing over me like a sinister wave. The shadows rippled, and ghostly figures began to emerge from the depths. I could see them clearer now, children with hollow eyes and pale smiles, their faces morphing into something both familiar and foreign. They were echoing my fears, my doubts, and I realized they were feeding off of them. "No!" I shouted, clutching the doll tightly. The porcelain felt cool against my skin, and in that moment, I understood. My fear gave them power. I needed to stand firm. I refuse. The room trembled, as if my declaration had shifted something in the air. The whispering began to subside, replaced by a chorus of children's voices pleading and demanding. "You can join us. It's so much fun. Just close your eyes." I squeezed my eyes shut, heart racing. A surge of wild energy coursed through me. I pictured the lake house, the laughter echoing off the water, the shadows closing in. I remembered the weight of the music box in the attic, the memories of the children forever trapped. I felt the pressing need to fight back. With resolve, I whispered, "I need to remember. You can't take me." I opened my eyes, the familiar room now edging toward darkness as the shadows writhed. In that moment of clarity, I sprang toward the window, flinging it open. The cool night air rushed in, mingling with the laughter just outside. I took a deep breath, my heart racing as I shouted, "This ends now!" "Stay here!" they screamed in unison, rushing at me from all angles, their faces twisting in anger.
But I felt a surge of power within me, an understanding that I had the choice. I wouldn't let the darkness take me. Ignoring the mounting panic, I dropped the doll outside, letting it tumble into the grass below. The shadows writhed and screeched, a frenzy erupting as they lunged for it. "Playtime is over!" I yelled, the conviction rippling through me. In that instant, the shadows faltered, recoiling from the manifest of my defiance. With a deep breath, I hurled myself through the window, an act of desperation, but fueled by the need to escape. I tumbled down, landing hard on my feet, the grass cool and solid beneath me. I stood, heart pounding, facing the expanse of the lake. The fog lingered, cloaking the water, and for a moment everything was quiet. I felt the shadows receding, their cries diminishing into whispers. But could I truly escape? As I looked back up at my room, I saw the doll lying abandoned on the floor, the insights of those lost children flickering in the corner of my eye. The laughter hung heavily in the air. I had survived. Or maybe I hadn't. Maybe this was just another layer of their game. I turned, my heart racing, realizing that while I'd escaped from the house, the specters of those lost children would always linger. I paused, taking one last look back, the choices weighing heavily on my conscience. What had I released? Would those children find peace, or was this just the beginning of something darker? A gust of wind swept over the lake, filling my lungs with the crisp scent of pine and water. The echoes of joy and madness mingled, leaving questions unanswered. I could feel the air vibrating with their laughter. I had lived, but did I truly escape? I took a deep breath and stepped away from the edge, the safe space outside of those four walls reinforcing my decision to move forward. I had survived, but the game continued, leaving me to wonder when the call would come again. Every dusk, as the laughter echoed across the lake, I would remember. Maybe it was never truly over.